I don't think I've ever shown my full yarn stash on this channel before, and to be completely honest, I was a little surprised when I pulled everything out. If you've ever felt overwhelmed by your yarn stash or wondered how to organize it in a way that feels calm instead of chaotic, this video is for you. Today I'm going to show you how I organize my yarn, how I keep track of everything without overly complicated systems, and most importantly, what this yarn is going to become in the future. Some of these skeins already have very clear plans, but before I show you that, let's start at the very beginning because this looked a little bit alarming at first. I decided to take absolutely everything out. Every basket, every shelf, every forgotten project bag, so I could finally see it all in one place. And in that moment, it did feel like too much. But then I started trying to shift my perspective, and instead of seeing excess, I started seeing possibility. One thing that helped me immediately was grouping my yarns by category, not in a perfect way, but following my intuition. So sweaters quantities and full skeins together, sock yarns together, and leftovers in their own bag. I'm also grouping some yarns by fiber blend, mainly cotton yarns and silk mohair yarns. And since I have a lot of unspun yarn, mainly Nutiden from Önneroye, those go together as well. Nothing complicated, just enough structure so that I can see what I actually have. And in a moment I'm going to show you the yarn that I am currently most excited about knitting with next, because discovering it in this huge pile of yarn felt like somehow finding a hidden treasure. And as I was sitting in this pile of yarn, I realized something important. A stash only becomes overwhelming when we stop creating with it, when it starts to feel like a burden and not like a gift. And when I feel a bit stuck creatively, I really like to scroll through the classes on Skillshare because there is always so much to discover there. Skillshare is very kindly sponsoring today's video, and they are an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creative people. Skillshare has numerous classes taught by world-class professionals like illustrators, renowned graphic designers, and successful entrepreneurs. It really is one of the best places to learn a creative skill or pick up a new hobby. And if you're looking for a place to learn from other humans, which I personally find very important, Skillshare is a great place for that. Recently I discovered the sweetest crochet class where you learn how to make 3 adorable sea animals, a turtle, a whale, and a tiny octopus. It's the perfect kind of project for leftover yarn. It's playful, approachable, and deeply satisfying to finish, I think. And since my daughter, who is 12 years old now, recently started to crochet as well, I am planning to crochet these super cute animals together with her using some of the leftover cotton yarns that I have in my stash. And something I truly appreciate is that there is even a version of the class designed specifically for left-handed crocheters, which is still surprisingly rare in the crafting world, unfortunately. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. It's a lovely way to explore something new and actually use the yarn you already have. Alright, let me show you the yarn that I uncovered next, because this one truly surprised me. These beautiful skeins were very kindly gifted to me by the company. This is Roma by the German yarn brand La Mana, and this is, I think, the softest yarn I have ever felt. Let me see if I can somehow show you. It truly feels like a cloud. It's just amazing. So this is a blend of 80% cashmere and 20% silk, and it's just a dream. I already know what I want to make with it, and I also made a little swatch, and I am later on going to talk more about the knitting plans that I have with this beautiful yarn. Let's talk about yarn storage now, because personally I am someone who doesn't like overly complicated systems. What I much rather would like to have is a way to store yarn that is easy and protects my yarn, because over time I realized that although I love these huge walls of yarns that some people have that almost look like a yarn store, for me it's much more important that it is less perfect and more about protection of my beautiful yarn. One thing I've started doing is taking pictures of my yarn and uploading them to Ravelry, not in a perfect way. I don't weigh every skein or track every last meter because I know that this level of detail would overwhelm me. But instead, I simply want to be able to open my Ravelry page and see at a glance what is already here waiting for me. And if you're someone who loves data, you can absolutely track more details. I've seen people use Excel files, which I think works great, but personally I've learned to choose the level of structure that keeps creativity flowing for me, while at the same time does not overwhelm me. I also try my very best to store my yarns in a dark place to protect the colors from fading over time. It's a small thing, but I think it is extremely important if you want to preserve the beauty of your precious yarns. And while sustainability is extremely important to me and I avoid plastic wherever I can in my life, yarn is the one area where I make a conscious exception, because natural fibers are simply too precious to risk. So for the yarns that I want to protect long term, I store them in an airtight container or in a sealed bag to keep moths and other unwanted tiny visitors out. This gives me a lot of peace of mind and allows me to enjoy my stash without worrying. Because in the end, a stash isn't something to be treated as an inventory. It is supposed to support the creative life that you want to live. If you are part of my Skool community, you already know that reassessing our stashes and organizing them was our monthly quest for February. What I really like about this community is if you are doing a task together as a group, suddenly it does not feel as overwhelming and you get so much inspiration and support from each other. In the community, each month we intentionally focus on one main theme. So in January we did a full wardrobe reset. In February we are doing the stash reassessment, and in March we are all going to do a knit along together where everyone is going to knit a wardrobe staple pattern, whether this might be a cardigan, a sweater, a tee, a hat, whatever you consider a wardrobe staple for you. It's such a cozy and inspirational space, and if you're looking for more structure, inspiration and connection in your making life and would like to know more, I'm going to put the link in the description box for you. Let's continue with the stash organization now. If you also have a couple of single skeins in your stash that you don't really know what to do with, I made a video about 10 knitting patterns that are perfect for just one skein of yarn, and I'm going to link that for you in the description box as well. And now comes my favorite part, because once you stop considering your yarn as something you just store and start dreaming about what to make with it, this changes everything in my opinion. I always feel so inspired when looking at my yarn, and I consider it a pile of memories I have not made yet. So let me show you which yarns I have already decided what to knit with and what I plan to make with them. Okay, so this is Sunday Morning Luxe Sport by Sonder Janko, and this colorway, this beautiful deep navy, is called Cover to Cover. I have 3 skeins of that one and another one in a gray colorway. Now, I originally purchased this yarn in order to knit the Eggshell Sweater by Catherine Clark. This is a stunning all over colorwork masterpiece that I would love to have in my handmade wardrobe, but After casting it on, I quickly ran out of steam. I wasn't in the right mind space. It was too complicated for me to work from charts all the time. I didn't really enjoy it, and then in the end, after the whip was laying around for quite some time, and to be honest, I only did like a small portion of the collar and a bit more, I decided to frog it and to start over. I would love to make something with this yarn because it is very beautiful and also very soft. I am thinking about either doing the Friday slip over by Petite Knit, which is a beautiful vest pattern with an all over broken rib motif, and another beautiful pattern that I am considering is a crochet pattern. Actually, it's the Leodax Seashore Sweater by Linda Skool. And this would be my very first crochet garment pattern. That's why I'm still a bit hesitant. I'm also not quite sure if I have enough yarn because, like I said, I only have 3 skeins of the navy color, or if I would have to do maybe the collar, the sleeve cuffs and the bottom hem in the contrasting gray colorway. I'm not quite sure, but whatever it is going to become, I would love to knit with this beauty very soon. Next up, we have the yarn I already showed you, so Roma by La Mana, and like I mentioned, I already made the gauge swatch for that one. So what I would like to knit with this yarn is a set of a hat and a matching neck accessory. For the hat, I am thinking about using the classic ribbed hat pattern by Pearl Soho. This is a free all over ribbed hat pattern, which I've made numerous times before. It is very easy and I think it looks very classic and timeless, and it would look great, I think, in this beautiful off-white color. And for the neck accessory, I would like to make the double knit scarf by Hello Hygge Life. I already purchased the pattern, and I think this is such an elegant neck accessory that is just a bit more sophisticated than like a standard scarf or shawl, and I would really like to knit this one as well. I have a lot of Nutiden yarn from Unaroer, so the unspun yarn, and one of the reasons is the fact, let me see if I can put it down. One of the reasons that I have so much Nutiden yarn is the fact that this one comes out in collections, and if you see a color that you like, you have to get it immediately because otherwise once it's sold out, it is not going to come back. And that led to some purchases, and honestly I was at a point that I had so much Nutiden yarn that I knew I couldn't knit with all of it at the time, and that's why some of those plates have been sitting in my stash now for some time. But for example, this is the colorway Vidunder, and this is the colorway Apostrophe. I have already worked with or am working with right now, and those are actually leftovers. But I also have some other colorways that I would quickly like to mention. So this beauty here is called Tepa, and it is a very neutral but interesting colorway because it has those flecks of pinks and it has a very slightly light green undertone. And let me see if I can get the swatch. I already made a swatch with it. Doesn't that look absolutely lovely? I held the Tepa together with a strand of a silk mohair. So this is the soft silk mohair from Knitting for Olive called Ballerina. And I would love to knit the Rib Wave sweater by Joanna Eng with this beautiful yarn combination. Next up we have, let me see, this is Dax Use, which means daylight, I think. Yes, that's the daylight colorway. I also have 300 grams of that, and I would love to design a pair of socks with this yarn. And to do so, I am planning to hold this yarn together with one strand of a silk mohair yarn, which gives the sock a lot more stability and also this wonderful fluffiness that mohair tends to add to a knitted piece. And the next colorway I wanted to show you is called moron use, which means morning light. So this has a bit more of a blue undertone and some very light pink flecks. So what I purchased this yarn for originally was to knit a night shift shawl by Andrea Mowry with, and I planned to use this yarn. So this is some of my own hand spun. This is a 100% BFL fiber that I spun up as a 2-ply. So I wanted to use this one as the contrast and the moron use as the main color, but now I'm not so sure. But whether I decide to make the night shift shawl or not, I would for sure love to knit with the moron use very soon, because it's just a very beautiful and unusual colorway. And then I would like to show you this beautiful sock yarn. So this is Rambler from the Woolly Thistle, which is an American online store, and Rambler is their own sock yarn line. This yarn was very kindly gifted to me by the store. This is the colorway Cinnamon Fern, and I would love to create a sock design with that, which I already have in my mind. I just need to take the time to cast the socks on. This is a beautiful all-natural sock yarn, which I personally use exclusively when knitting socks, so all-natural sock yarns, that is. And what that means is that this is a non-superwash yarn, and it does not contain any synthetic fibers. In fact, the Rambler base is a blend, let me see, of 80% white Dorset, 10% white Corriedale, and 10% grey Romney. Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to finally being able, hopefully very soon, to bring my design idea from my head into reality. Next up, we have those beautiful skeins, and this is my own hand spun as well. I have 400 grams in total of that, and I spun it up as singles. This is a merino fiber together with some recycled fibers, so the colorful flecks are the recycled fibers. And what I would like to make with it is some kind of sweater. I am picturing a slightly oversized drop shoulder design, maybe holding it with a strand of a silk mohair. Since this is spun as singles, I in fact already made a swatch playing around with some different silk mohairs that I had in my stash. I'm not sure if you'll be able to tell. So this was held together with a more neutral beige silk mohair, and this was held together with this soft blush pink silk mohair that I am going to use together with the Tepa Nutiden yarn for the ribwave pullover. And I also have 2 cotton linen blend yarns that I am excited to make something with for the warmer months of the year. So this is both from the Korean company, let me see, Nakyang Yarn, and this was also very kindly gifted to me. I would love to make the Rigmor tee by Petite Knit with the blue colorway. The Rigmor tee is a simple tee, but it has this lace motif, which I quite like, so I think it would look beautiful in this color. And this off-white color I would like to use to make a short tee by Anne Wenzel with. So also with those lace panels running down the top. And I think it would look very beautiful with this colorway as well. Now, organizing my yarn has really helped me to see in one place what I actually have, and feeling inspired what I can knit with it. I actually feel a lot less overwhelmed than I initially thought. Rather, I have a ton of new ideas in my head now what all of these beautiful skeins are or could become in the future. And if looking at all of this yarn has inspired you to cast something new as well, I am going to link a video for you on the screen here that I think you are going to enjoy. It's about several very relaxing and mindless knitting projects. And yeah, I think you're going to like that one as well. Thank you for spending this cozy time with me today, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.